Jonita, I think first of all, a warm welcome to you on Filme Shilmy. Congratulations on Taare Zameen Par. It's your first time as a reality show judge. How are you finding it so far?
First of all, thank you so much, and I'm so happy to be here in Filme Shilmy. Um, it's a crazy experience. It's cool because technically I'm not a judge, I'm a mentor, so that relieves a little bit of the pressure I feel off of me. Because generally speaking, I wouldn't call myself someone worthy of judging anyone, to be honest. But it's a blast. I was always a little apprehensive about joining the reality TV world, but I have great company, and so far so good.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's very special because Taare Zameen Par is amongst those rare reality shows where it's not a competition, where you're just honing talent and giving an opportunity
Right.
to young people to display themselves and improve themselves, which is so fantastic. And what a great initiative by Optimystix as well, right? So to kind of like step into those shoes as a mentor, so to speak, what do you think has been the greatest challenge for you so far?
So it is a great initiative. A big shout out to Optimistics. The best part about the show, as you mentioned, is that there's no competition, right? So the fact that the kids are not under that pressure and the stress makes it a lot easier for them, and that atmosphere has made it easier, I think, for everyone who's a part of this of the set, including us as mentors. What's been challenging is definitely for me specifically is the Hindi bit. Because on the show I speak, I would say maybe 80% in Hindi, and it's definitely a learning curve for me because there's so much I want to share sometimes, and I'm a very passionate person, I'm a very excited person, I'm a very enthusiastic person, but then to translate that into a language that I've not grown up speaking and to connect that way, it has been initially tough, but every week it gets better and better and easier. And I really realized something, that on this show, the power of music, it surpasses any sort of challenge that we might face, because we have this mood on set where it's like everyone is in this together. And I think that is what is helping all of us feel at ease about all this. So like if anyone does have any discomfort, it's like, you know what, we're going to work through it together. We're all going to be there for each other. And it's such a nice vibe. So
Yeah, and I think the problem is a lot of times with reality shows is the toxic nature of it. It's like you're always fighting
yeah.
to be number one. And I think that also puts
Mhm.
an undue pressure on a lot of people and can have a massive impact on one's mental health as well. But prior to kind of Tare Zameen Par, were you ever offered of becoming a reality show judge on any platform whatsoever?
There were a couple of shows that we were in talks with, I think a year or two back, and I remember it didn't get to a far stage at all, but it was kind of just like, should we show interest in this? And I always was apprehensive, and I used to tell my team, guys, and they used to be like pro me doing this, and I used to kind of be anti me doing it just because I really didn't feel ready. I feel like everything happens at the right time, and I feel like there's a lot that one needs to do in their life. They need to experience, they need to accomplish in order to be worthy of that seat. I really, really believe that. A lot of my most favorite singers in the industry have been in that seat, and on different shows. And so I always look up to them, and I always feel like, not that I feel like I'm there at all, but now I feel like, okay, there is, especially because it's a kids show, there's something that I feel like I can offer, that I can help. And if I can be of any help, then I should definitely try. So
Hmm. And because I was talking about the whole toxic nature of reality shows and how it can impact,
yeah.
self-esteem and mental health. How do you think Tare Zameen Par can really change the game in terms of the way people view singing reality shows? Because there was a time, actually, I don't know if you remember, there used to be this one particular show where there used to be jhagdas every time amidst the judges. Like there was literally this dramatic music, that whole contestant speaking back, and the host is standing there being like, "What am I doing?" So like there's that whole phase, which I think thankfully has kind of been left behind, but there's still always that stereotypical vibe that comes in reality shows. So how do you think that can all change now?
It's funny that you mentioned that. I don't think I've seen a whole lot of reality shows. I come from the generation, might be similar to you, I'm not sure. I watched Indian Idol 1. Like, I remember that
Yeah,
very vividly.
yeah.
Um, But other than that, I don't think I really watched any reality show in its entirety, but I have definitely seen a lot of the clips that you're mentioning where there's like fights, and it seems like small things have been kind of exaggerated, you know, just to make it more entertaining. I think on a show like this, that kind of stuff is fortunately not really happening, especially because it's kids. I think there's just this positive energy, and I think it is a game changer, like you said. Because why do people come to watch these shows? I don't know. Like, it should be for the music, and I think as a team, we are promoting that more than anything else. The music, the talent of the kids, that is before anything else. And I think as long as that's kind of that united goal, people who watch the show have so much more to talk about. They're so excited about like the stories that these kids are sharing, the stories that everybody on set, actually, we're all a family now. So we're always just talking about like, oh, you like that, I like that too. And we're all just connecting on not just music, but I feel like we're building real relationships. And that is like entertaining. I think that's what people can relate to when they watch at home. And I don't think the rest of it's really necessary. It just creates bad vibes. It creates stress, like you said, jhagadas and all. It's just, I
Yeah.
think we're doing fine without. So I think it's a game changer for sure. Yeah.
It is. It definitely is, and I feel that vibe as well. Like, because I watch it daily, and I think it's always nice.
Oh, you watch it?
Yay! I'm a fan of the show, and this is what I was saying. And I think all optimistic shows, to be honest, I'm quite a big fan of because I just love the sort of
Yay.
content that they produce. And I think with this one in particular, I think it's quite a relief to have it because often there's like serial, but then we have Tare Zameen Par, which kind of
Yeah, you have dramas for that. You know,
yes,
if you want the jhagadas and you want the like Rasode mein kaun tha, you can
yeah.
watch that on other shows. And that stuff's great too. It's like fiction and it's really entertaining. So, but that's a different space, right? That's not our space.
Yeah, I mean, we also have Big Boss for Jagadas as well, which is obviously doing quite
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You have your fair share on that, I hear. Yeah.
exactly. So I think yeah, no, I think it's been quite a good phase for you as well because I think before Tare Zameen Par, you were doing these virtual concerts, I believe, for Z. I think there was one segment with you on Z, and you sang like this wonderful mashup of like your songs, and I think you even sang Sajan Ayore as well, which is one of my favorite songs. And now obviously you have this show, so
Oh,
it
thank
seems
you.
to have been quite a busy period for you even during lockdown, right?
Actually, yeah, lockdown has kind of hit us all in different ways. You know, everyone's like, living their own journey through this whole pandemic. And I think the key is just to make the most of whatever you have. And fortunately, I feel so lucky that as a musician, I do have resources available to me at home. I have a home studio set up. Thanks to technology, we're able to communicate even right now, me and you, and speak and also do virtual gigs. There's definitely a lot that was still happening. And then again, as a musician, even if I don't do any of that, there's time for me to kind of do some songwriting and reflect and take all the things that were on my to-do list over the years that kind of kept getting pushed back in line. I kind of gave a little more focus to those things, which was really great. And then family time, I spent a lot of time with my family during lockdown. I'm just glad now that as things are starting to get a little bit more normal, of course, with all safety precautions kept in mind, we are starting to step out and we are starting to do things. So I think this was the best way for me to kind of get back out there again in a very controlled environment. So
Hmm.
yeah,
I think your
it's been
career
busy. It's been good.
I think your entire career, though, I
Touch
think
wood.
has been very kind of interesting as well, though, Jonita, because I believe you kind of began with doing a lot of like covers on YouTube with Akash as well when you were what, 17, I believe at the time.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because you're one of those discovered stars from the web. You know, we're talking about the web nowadays and how it's kind of opened up such a big space for a lot of artists, but you are also one of those key figures who have kind of been discovered from there. I mean, did you ever kind of imagine your career would sort of explode the way it has right now when you were doing those covers at that time with Akash?
Not at all. When I did those covers, I think both of us were a little clueless to the power of the internet and to the power of YouTube at the time. We were just kind of looking, it was a creative outlet for us, and we thought it was really cool that we could just do what we want and like release it, you know, because I'm somebody who's never had the backing of a label or the backing of a super musically connected family or whatever. So for us, we find ways to kind of express ourselves that are within our reach. And this was something that was within our reach. We were able to collaborate virtually, thanks to the internet again, and just put stuff out. And we were getting honest feedback. And I felt that as a musician, that's very important to like share your music with people and see how people are relating to it and connecting with it. And that's kind of when we started to realize like, wow, we really have something good going, because after we did a couple of covers, the kind of feedback and response that was pouring in from like across the world and within the industry as well was like crazy. We were just like, we had no idea. We had no idea that people from the industry, people like Amitabh Bachchan ji, like Ayushmann Khurrana at the time, his song we had done, he's tweeting about it. We're just like, what is happening? So I feel really, really awesome to kind of be part, or to have my journey have blossomed that way. It's very unique. Yeah.
So it's just amazing to see how the web has really kind of brought the world closer in many, many ways as well. Do you think perhaps things would have been different had you not have done these covers on YouTube?
I do think so, because I think doing these covers is what gave me credibility early on in my career, especially because, like I said, no one knew me, but this was kind of like a sure shot demo kind of thing I had to present to people when I released content to show for yourself anytime you're trying to like audition for something. So I think definitely things would have been different. Especially the main thing for me was the distance. Now I live in Mumbai, but at the time I was not living in India. I was living in Canada with my family. And in order to be part of the Indian film industry, you kind of have to be here, if not all the time, then at least sometimes, to work here and to meet people. So that distance was made smaller by the internet. It's become a small world, like you said, because of YouTube and all these social media platforms. And I really owe my career, I would say, to my covers.
Definitely. No, absolutely. But I think it's also interesting because I believe you're also formally trained in Western and Hindustani classical singing as well. So what has it kind of been like sort of learning those two art forms?
So I learned Western classical when I was growing up. My parents had put me in a class in this school called the Ontario Conservatory of Music. And it was a syllabus that I was following. I never completed it, unfortunately. It was something I always did on the side while I was studying in school. Then when I went to university, I would have elective courses. So all my free courses, I would pick music related, at least one per year, a studio class. Or when I say studio, I don't mean like studio, I mean like a singing performance studio class. And so that was great because that kept my training going, and it kept me kind of on my toes, learning new things. With Hindustani classical, first of all, in Toronto, it was really tough to find a teacher. There was a couple of teachers that were really spread out. One was, I think, like 50 minutes away from my house. So it was becoming really hard to kind of travel back and forth, especially with school in the way. And so I didn't really learn too much of Hindustani classical, unfortunately. That's like my one regret in my life. I really wish that I did proper formal training in Hindustani classical. That being said, after I moved to Mumbai, I started taking classes. I started doing exercises. Even if I'm not doing, the syllabus theory-based classes, I was still doing practical classes where I'm practicing doing alaps and improvising in a Hindustani way. And I think those things definitely help because I'm just trying to be versatile. I'm trying to express myself in different ways and learn new things all the time. So I really, really enjoyed, once I came to Mumbai, learning. It's a really different world, the Hindustani classical world and the Western classical world, obviously. But I feel having some sort of training in both is imperative. If you want to be doing the kinds of things that I'm doing in terms of singing different styles, performing with different people, and carrying concerts where you're having to sing a very, very wide variety of music, especially when I perform with A.R. Rahman sir. His music is like, it spans like not just like time, but also just genres. Like, so it's really handy for me now that I have that experience to be able to implement it for, maybe a Western classical background vocal piece in one of his songs, or then doing like a Tumri style song. So I just think that having the training as much as you can is great. I've kind of winged a lot of my life, but I think I'm following the fake it till you make it route more than anything. But I don't want to promote that.
So when you say wing it, what do you mean? As in, like, in what way have you kind of winged it, so to speak?
In terms of my skill set as well, I'm a very adaptable person, thank God, because moving to India from Canada is a really big undertaking. You know, it's a huge culture shock, to be honest. If you've grown up your entire life in Canada and then you move to Mumbai, and I mean that in all ways, right? Even like climate, something as simple as that. It's tough, definitely, initially to kind of settle into a completely new atmosphere, but being adaptable is what I mean when I say like winging it, learning things as you go, and just staying as positive as you can so that you learn from all your mistakes and you take all your, all the swings of the roller coaster ride that is life. You learn something from each step. So
Right, because you're quite a versatile singer. Like, you can pull off a classical song almost ish, like Sajan Ayore. At the same time, you can also do like a bit more of a modern song, like, I don't know, or an upbeat song, like a breakup song, for example. So you can have that ability to kind of switch between different genres. Is it that challenging for you as a singer?
It is challenging. I think what I try to keep in mind, the main thing for me is the messaging of what I'm trying to get across when I'm singing a song. Because I think rather than the style or the language, it's like, what are you trying to make people feel? And I believe this mostly because I'm a listener too, right? And I'm a fan too of a lot of people. And when I admire my favorite artists, sometimes I don't even know what they're saying. Like, honestly speaking, like a lot of the music that I sing and listen to, I don't necessarily understand the lyrics or whatever, or it might be a genre I've never heard before, but it touches you in a way. And I think that's what music is all about. And I think that's possible to do. And I think the main thing for me is there are no rules when it comes to music. And if I keep that in mind, I'm able to kind of be creative and not confine the way I approach a song to the genre in which it's supposedly supposed to be in, if that makes any sense. If I just think of music as fluid, it's very fluid. So from genre to genre, it's still all just music. I don't know if that's too vague.
Yeah, no.
But that really helps me.
As in a sense, like, you try not to pay too much attention to the genres per se. You just go along with what you need to do at that moment, right?
Going along with what I feel the song requires, what I feel, and it depends on if it's a playback experience, then there will be somebody in the room who is guiding me and who is expressing what the goal is of the song or of that part of the song or what we're trying to attain, right? So it's a shared vision. But then when it comes to your own music, again, it's free. You're free to do whatever you want. So that's what's beautiful. It's like genre, language, all of that doesn't matter. You just do whatever you feel sounds good.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. And I think one of my earliest memories of sort of being familiar with you and your music, I think, has to be Abhija from A.R. Rahman's Ronak, actually. I remember going on long walks and listening to that song in my headphones, and it just took me to another world. And I think A.R. Rahman could be rightly said to be your mentor, because I think many of your earliest works, I think your Bollywood sort of breakthrough as well in your career actually happened with Highway, if I'm not wrong, as well. I mean, you've obviously had works.
That was my second film. My first with AR, sir. My first ever Bollywood song was Vishal Shekhar, Chennai Express.
Yes. Oh, yes. That's actually true as well. I remember that. But I think, having collaborated a lot with Rahman sir, I think that must have really taught you a lot. So what was the greatest learnings for you from working with him as well, and kind of like understanding his sort of taste in music?
Oh my God, I learned a new thing, I feel, every time I see him. It's just like, it's such a rewarding experience to work with him, honestly. And first of all, thank you, Anuj, for pointing out that song, Abhija. If that's one of your early memories, then you've been with me from the beginning, because that's literally, I think that came out before my song in Highway. So that was, I think, my first thing to have released that kind of announced to the world, at least to my little world at the time, that I have worked with Mr. A.R. Rahman. Like, that was my like showpiece. That like, oh my God. And I remember there were so many people who I didn't tell about it because I was so nervous and I was like, I don't want to jinx it. And I I just couldn't believe it was happening. So I'm like, let it release and then I'll believe it. And I still didn't believe it. And then when that released, it's kind of when it put me on the map, right? Because there are people who will religiously listen to his music, and like me included, right? So that was a huge, huge, huge thing for me. And ever since then till now, he's always been the most friendly and approachable person to work with. And it's just such a treat to work with him, especially because he's like a singer's composer. He understands what your strengths are as a singer, and I feel like he really plays to them. And that being said, he also is amazing at putting you on the spot. And I mean this as a good thing. There are so many things I didn't know that I could do until I did them with him or for him. And that applies to in the studio, and it also applies to on stage. So literally, like, you never know what to expect. I've done, I think, so many different genres again, and I've done like a couple of different languages also when I've worked with him. And each time it's just like, we don't know what's going to happen when we go in there, but when we come out, like, something amazing will definitely have just happened. So it's a treat.
Yeah, absolutely. No, but I think speaking a lot about the music industry nowadays, Jonita, I think a lot of concerns that many people have is the sort of abundance of remix culture that is emerging. There's literally coming one after the other remix songs. And I think people have just kind of started to really think to what extent sort of commercialization is encroaching the whole creativity aspect of the film and music industry, rather. Sorry. So what is your view on this whole remix culture? Do you think it's kind of a limitation in a way, or do you think it's just a shorthand to easy success?
I do think that, to be honest, it is a shortcut, like you said. It's like you're taking something that you know is going to work, right? Because it's already worked, and kind of capitalizing on the success of a song that's already successful. I think it's a little disheartening, to be honest, because on that scale, on the platform on which these remixes are being released, on those specific platforms, I feel that is where the opportunity lies for more original content to come out, for more unknown, talented people to get discovered. And instead, when this was happening constantly, I think a lot of us in the industry felt very disheartened.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to do a cover, it's one thing to like do a tribute, but then it's another thing to put out a song where in that place, if you put out an original, you could have had that sort of access, because you have a lot of money being pumped into these things, right? And I think that platform is being wasted when it's not being used to promote original music and original and new talent.
No, absolutely. I think you're spot on. But this is where I'm saying, this is why I'm glad we have platforms like YouTube now, because before there was that whole notion of either you winning a reality show and then, that propels your career, or maybe perhaps you just hope that you somehow just get discovered, or you knock on the doors of composers and producers and somehow hope. But now what's happened, like we said about the web, it's kind of given people that platform perhaps who aren't being given that chance as well, right?
Yeah, and again, like, it helps people who don't have access to like the big labels and to people who are going to invest in them. Of course, it's been a while since YouTube has been, or not YouTube, I should say, digital media has been reigning in the market. Yeah. It's been a while now, and I think even the same platforms that already had the resources, they're pumping in now money into digital as well. So it's still a disadvantage to people who are new and don't have those resources, but at least there's a platform that allows access to your music. And I think that is very powerful, and that's a very great way of you learning from your mistakes, not just from your mistakes, sorry, putting out your content and learning from what works, what people feel about your music. It's a very direct platform where people across the world are listening to you, and instant feedback you're getting, whether they like something or not. And these are people who otherwise, how would they have listened to your music? Unless you're being, played on TV, or you're being played on the radios, and all of those are like closed knit networks. And that's really hard to get into that. And those are the kind of places where Bollywood songs will have always kind of reigned. But this is an open market. It's an open platform. And I think that's very empowering for artists.
Yes, definitely. But I think what I also find very fascinating about you, Jonita, is that you've also not just sung in Hindi, but you've sung in non-Hindi languages as well. I believe you sung in Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, Gujarati as well, I believe. So you've sung in different languages. But when language becomes a barrier, how do you, as a singer, sort of manage to bring out those feelings? I mean, of course, you probably have a translation, but how still difficult is it? Because you can't understand it on the first instance. You still have to think about it. So how challenging is that for you?
The thing that's challenging about singing other languages is that it's one extra step in the mind game that we're playing when we're singing.
Yeah.
Because there's several factors to keep in mind when we're performing. One is pitch, then there's expression, then there's diction. There's a whole lot of things. And pronunciation for a language that you don't speak, to have that as an extra added thing to worry about, I think that's the main thing. It distracts you from being able to focus on the other stuff, which you would have, wanted to focus more on. So it just takes a bit longer. But other than that, I mean, singing in other languages, the melodies, I mean, all of that's universal, right? So for me, I can sing like gibberish even, and I feel like I can feel it and I can emote in it. As long as I know what, you know what I'm saying? Like, even in like a na 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 or a la la la, like anyone can sing that in a sad way or in a happy way, and you can convey an emotion for sure, even if the lyric is not, in a specific language. So I just approach it that way, and I think as long as I connect with the music, then I hope that other people will connect with it as well when I deliver.
Right. I mean, obviously, because you've had such a vast experience so far, what would you say has been the toughest song you've sung? And why would you say
the toughest song?
Yeah, and why would you say it's the toughest? And then what was your journey in kind of conquering that song?
What was my toughest song? That's a hard question. There's a couple that come to mind for different reasons. I'll tell you about two of them. They're both actually A.R. Rahman songs. One of them is Sajan Ayore, which is one that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Which is a song that I actually had been performing the Tamil version of already with A.R. Rahman Live, the tour we went to the US with in 2015. That song was on the set list, and to learn it was extremely difficult for me because I remember when I heard the song and I was just like, wow, this song is so beautiful. And then I'm like, wow, this song is so hard to sing. And then I'm like, wow, I have to sing this live. I'm not even recording it. So then I honestly didn't think I could do it. And this is, again, another example of one of those things, like, it just happens when you're working with sirs. Like, you end up being put to a test and then you end up being able to do things you never knew you could do. He somehow could predict that I would be able to pull it off. And it took me a while, to be honest. And finally, when I kind of started getting the hang of it, it became one of my most favorite songs to perform on that tour. And then I guess maybe that's why I was called to do the Hindi version of the same song when it came out in OK Janu. And then I realized when I was recording the song it's a really hard song to deliver in studio and live. But in studio, I think the thing that was even more difficult for me is I had all this pressure of, like, people are expecting, like, everybody in the studio knows that I've been performing this song, like, melody. The lyrics are different, but the melody. So I'm expected to nail it because we've done it live and it's gone well. But my biggest weakness is I overthink everything. So for me, that session was very difficult because I was overthinking every single harkat, and that song is full of harkats, and I kept, like, remembering, I'm not trained. I don't know what I'm doing here. Why me? Why, like, I don't deserve this. Literally, this is what was going on through my mind as I was delivering the song. So it was a really tough session, but eventually I think I was able to let go and just envision me on stage and just singing, Another song that was really tough for me was for a physical reason, and it was Kahan Hu Main from Highway. It was this was my first film song for A.R. sir. And Imtiaz Ali sir was there as well. And this was in Bombay. When I got this call, I had been throwing up, I should tell you, because I had food poisoning.
Oh, God.
And I couldn't say no. I couldn't say no to this, obviously. I'm like, I have to go. And so like I got a rickshaw, and I think on the way as well, I had to pull over to throw up. And then I got back in the rickshaw. I get there and I told the engineer, I'm like, listen, just between you and me, please don't tell sir. I haven't eaten all day because everything I try to eat, I throw up. And even now, I'm probably going to go to the bathroom a couple times. But like, just like if you can keep trying to get me some green tea from the kitchen, that would be great. And she's like, I got you. She's so sweet. So shout out to Srinidhi because she was the one who was there that day. Oh. And only her and I knew that this was happening. And then literally before I got on the mic, I went and threw up again. And this song is really high pitched. Like I have to sing like, da, 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 da. And the whole thing is like airy. That's the vibe of the song, right? And oh my God, I was getting lightheaded the entire time. But I strongly feel that my fight or flight instinct came into play, and the dizziness worked for me in the song, I guess. I think I just like God was on my side that day that I was able to deliver that song. But otherwise, because honestly, again, till date, that is definitely my top 3 that I've ever sung for films. Because in that song, what I got to do, I learned from AR Sir that this was one of the first songs I did with him. So I learned very early on that there are no limits. Like I kept asking, do you want it Indian? Do you want it more Western? And he's like, don't think about that. Just sing it. Like, how would you deliver this melody? Whether you want to put an Indian inflection on it or whether you want to put a Western inflection on it, whatever comes naturally. So the song ended up having both. It has a little bit of jazz vibes in the delivery. It has a little bit of Hindustani in it. And it's just like, I feel like that song represents me so well, and it's so close to my heart. And I always feel like that day, whatever happened, I was sick, was meant to be that way, because the way it ended up was just the way it was supposed to end up.
Wow, that is so incredible. I mean, thank you for sharing that with us, actually, because I think it just shows, isn't it? At the time when you think you're the worst, sometimes the best actually happens. And, you know, because you went out without any expectations, right? So I think that's probably what...
And I think the overthinking thing, I was probably overthinking how I was feeling instead of how I was singing. So the singing became a little more effortless, maybe. Like, see, now I'm overthinking what would have happened.
No, I totally get it. I think it's really fascinating. But I think coming back to Taare Zameen Par, Jonita, because you have learned from scratch, like many of I keep saying students, but I guess I can't call them students, right? The young students that we have on the show, because they're also...
We call them Taare. We call them Hamare Taare hain wo.
Ha, Hamare Taare, exactly. Literally, that's what the title...
Our little stars.
Yes, absolutely. So the little stars, because they also are, you know, learning and at a growing stage as well. What aspects do you kind of reflect on your life to sort of, that helps you to step into the role as a mentor? Do you think?
I think I've become a kid on the show. All of us have. And so I'm always reminded when I look at these kids, we all see a little bit of ourselves in them. Especially a lot of the little girls on the show. I look at them and I think like, wow, like this girl has worked really hard. You know, she made her notes. She wrote down, I'm going to breathe here. And like they're trying new styles. And I can really relate to that feeling of, I am now performing in front of people who I never thought I'd be able to perform in front of. Like, I can see them watching Shankarji, for example, and I relate to that feeling. Like, that literal thing has happened to me. Although I've never been a contestant on a reality show, when SEL came to Toronto for IFA in 2008 or 9, I had attended they had conducted a music workshop with a lot of different industry musicians.
Wow. Okay.
And I was present in that workshop, and for one of the activities, I volunteered to go up and sing, and I was actually voluntold to go up and sing, and I was so like scared, but also so excited, like that opportunity to sing in front of your idols. So when I see these kids and when they're performing and how they're like really like that hope in their eyes to see what Shankarji is going to say and what I'm going to say and what Tony's going to say, I can relate to that, and I think that's what helps me mentor and kind of like. When I was there, because I was there, what did I feel and what did I want to hear and what would I have wished someone told me? And I think those are all the things that we all think about sharing with the kids. We just pull on our own experiences.
Absolutely, yeah. Of course, people already recognize you, but I think also doing a show like Taare Zameen Par will perhaps also increase face value as well. So people can sort of put a a face on The Voice, so to speak. You know, a lot of the reality show judges sort of kind of have that sort of ability to do. But besides that, what else do you think Taare Zameen Par will help you in the future as well?
I think it's a huge learning opportunity for me, to be honest. There's so many things that I'm learning on the show. Just the fact that, again, that I'm sitting beside Shankar Mahadevan, like, I
Yeah.
still am just like, what the hell is my life? It's amazing. And the little things he teaches the kids, these are things that are like we implement. It doesn't matter how old you are sometimes. These are just like life skills if you're an artist, to implement. And so it's just like the atmosphere on the show is that of learning. And I feel every day we're learning new things, and we're learning so much from the kids. I don't feel like we're only the ones kind of teaching them things. Of course, we're sharing our experiences with them, and we're sharing our tricks of the trade and singing exercises and all of that, and helping them grow. But I feel like they're helping us grow too. Like, a lot of these kids have come from such humble beginnings. They've come from very unique backgrounds, and it's beautiful what they're sharing with us as human beings as well as artists. So there's so much to learn. Of course, the Hindi thing also I'm learning, you know. If
You're
you
doing
watch the show,
well.
you'll see my progress in that area as well. But thanks, buddy. But yeah, also, like you said, one thing I think I'm going to be able to hopefully achieve as well on the show is to put a face to my music. I feel like there's a lot of people who have heard the songs that I've sung. Even my colleagues in the industry will like hear songs and be like, "Oh, you sang that? I had no idea." So it's nice to have a platform, a musical platform for singers to kind of, again, put a face to their voice, especially because Bollywood doesn't always do that. So yeah.
Yes, exactly. No, it's true. I'm sure you're also going to do a fabulous job because I think you're coming across very great on the show, to be very honest with you,
Thank you. That means a lot to me.
Jonathan. But before I let you go, I think me as a fan of yours, and of course as someone who I've kind of listened to for a very long time, I think I would love, and I think the viewers of Filme Shilmy would be very grateful if we could just get a chota sa mashup of some of your best works, or maybe some of your songs which you're comfortable singing. That would be amazing. So if you could
Okay,
do that, that would be amazing.
sure. रंग बदल बदल जो चहक रहे हैं दिन दोपहरिया मैं जानू ना जानू ना जानू ना जानू ना क्यों फुदक फुदक की धड़कनों की चल रही की लहरिया जानू ना क्यों जरा सा मौसम सर फिरा है या मेरा मोर मस्खरा है मस्खरा है जजाए का मनमानियों का है वो कैसा रस भरा है मैं जानू ना क्यों हजार गुल मोहर से भर गई है ख्वाहिशों की टहनियाँ मैं जानू ना जानू ना जानू ना जानू ना क्यों फुदक फुदक की धड़कनों की चल रही की लहरिया मैं जानू ना जानू ना जानू ना जानू ना मेरा दिल मोया सिद्धा नहीं है टूटता जाने इसनु की हो या ना पता तेरी गलती है किसी दी नहीं सुनदा जाने इसनु होया की पता दिल तेरे अगे पिछे नेड़े गेड़े मारदा फिर कमला है क्यों तेरी अखां उत्ते हार दारिया कुड़िए हाय ओए समझ नहीं आंदी है सोनिए हाय ओए समझ नहीं आंदी है जब आए तेरी याद मुड़ के जाती नहीं सजना अब तो नींद भी मुझको आती नहीं ओ मजनू मेरे यार ये लाला है तैयार हो जल्दी से लेके आ जा इकड़ा मणकी रिंग तेरे लिए दिल का टेलीफोन है बजता रिंग रिंग रे ओ मेरे दिल का टेलीफोन है बजता रिंग 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 सजना दिल का टेलीफोन है बजता रिंग रिंग रे
Wow, that was amazing. Well, thank you so much, Jonita. सजना का तो मालूम नहीं, लेकिन हमारा दिल का टेलीफोन रिंग रिंग जरूर बज रहा है अभी. I think hearing that. So thank you. So thank you so much
Thank
for that.
you.
That was fabulous. And I just want to say you're doing such a fabulous job on Taare Zameen Par. I think the show is so remarkable on actually giving an opportunity for young rising stars to actually display their talent and improve it. And I think having mentors like you, Shankar Mahadevan and Tony Kakkar, is just so fabulous. And congratulations to you and Optimystix for such a great initiative.
Yes, congratulations to the entire team. I'm very proud to be part of it. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Jonita. Thank you so much, Jonita. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.